You know what really grinds my gears? When the government shuts down for 37 days and these dickwads pretend it's not fucking arson, the stench of institutional collapse. There's a particular smell to failure. It's not the bullshit metaphor of burning bridges or whatever poetic garbage gets trotted out in think pieces. It's the actual funk of unwashed airport terminals on day 37 of a government shutdown, where the janitors haven't been paid and the trash hasn't been collected, where desperate travelers sleep on floors that reek of abandonment, and the FAA threatens to slice flight capacity at 40 airports like they're carving up a goddamn Thanksgiving turkey. It's the taste of stale vending machine coffee at 3 a.m. when air traffic controllers, unpaid, overworked, exhausted to their fucking bones, decide they can't do mandatory overtime anymore without paychecks, and the whole system starts hemorrhaging safety margin like a slashed artery. Justice is the first virtue of social institutions, as truth is of systems of thought. A theory, however elegant and economical, must be rejected or revised if it is untrue. Likewise, laws and institutions, no matter how efficient and well-arranged, must be reformed or abolished if they are unjust. John Rawls. But what happens when the institutions themselves become instruments of injustice? When the people responsible for keeping planes from falling out of the sky are condemned to work without compensation, while Donnie Caligula's administration plays chicken with American lives? The dumbfuck dynasty of manufactured crisis on Tuesday, while the shutdown ground into its 37th suffocating day, the Republican Party took an electoral body blow so devastating that even Ted Cruz, that spineless ass-licking monument to cowardice, called it an outright disaster. Democratic victories rippled through New York, New Jersey, and Virginia like aftershocks from a political earthquake, and suddenly all those fucksticks who'd been confident in their culture war bullshit started pointing trembling fingers at economic discontent. Marjorie Taylor Greene, that walking embodiment of every stupid conspiracy theory your drunk uncle believes, actually acknowledged that her constituents are drowning in rising costs. What voters are actually facing: housing costs that have turned the American dream into a fever dream, where owning a home requires either generational wealth or selling your organs on the black market. Grocery inflation that makes feeding a family feel like financing a luxury vehicle, where choosing between medication and meals becomes the new normal. Energy costs spiking, while oil companies post record profits, and politicians pretend trickle-down economics isn't just pissing on people and calling it rain. Democracy means government by discussion, but it is only effective if you can stop people talking. Karl Popper. Except these shitweasels aren't interested in effective governance. They're interested in stopping government entirely, in proving that institutions can't work by deliberately breaking them, then pointing at the wreckage as evidence that government is the problem. While Americans are getting financially skull-fucked by inflation, while air traffic controllers are calling out in droves because mandatory overtime without paychecks will literally kill someone, Trumpty Mouth Anus frantically distanced himself from the election wreckage like a cockroach scrambling away from sudden light. The party has lost its grip on Americans' seething frustration, and their response is to double down on the same goddamn policies that created this shitstorm. The taste of broken promises and pharmaceutical theater. There's something particularly grotesque about the timing of announcements in this administration, a kind of calculated fuckery that would make Machiavelli weep with envy. While government workers bleed paychecks and the FAA prepares to strand travelers nationwide, the dumping Donald's administration carved out a pharmaceutical agreement. GLP-1 drugs from Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, now priced at $245 monthly for Medicare and Medicaid recipients. Let's be crystal fucking clear about what this is. Carefully orchestrated distraction from governmental gridlock. Senior officials trumpet this most favored nation deal as healthcare victory, promising access through the forthcoming Trump RX platform, which, knowing this shitshow administration, will probably launch with all the technical competence of healthcare. Gov's disastrous debut but with extra grift baked in. The discounted injectable treatments target obesity's crushing grip on millions of Americans desperate for affordable intervention. People need these medications, and lowering costs matters. But the cynicism of announcing this while deliberately starving government workers and threatening to crash the aviation system? That's not governance. That's hostage-taking with a pharmaceutical chaser. One is not born, but rather becomes oppressed. No biological, psychological, or economic fate determines the figure that the human presents in society. It is civilization as a whole that produces this creature. Simone de Beauvoir. These absolute fuckwads can juggle crises, announce victories, and gaslight the public into forgetting that 37 days without a functioning government isn't normal, and the oppression they're manufacturing, the economic violence, the deliberate dysfunction, isn't some natural disaster. It's a choice made by specific dickwads who benefit from chaos while ordinary Americans suffer. The sound of negotiations. Dying in real time, Senate Democrats huddle for emergency strategy sessions, their confidence swelling after election victories. Schumer orchestrates afternoon meetings while Thune dangles promises of health care subsidy votes. But Democrats demand concrete guarantees, not the hollow gestures Republicans are offering like dog shit wrapped in gold foil. Mike "Tiny" Johnson refuses to commit the House to any deal, dismissing negotiation responsibility like it's beneath him. The negotiation breakdown looks like this. Republicans offer vague promises about health care subsidies with no timeline, no enforcement mechanism, no actual commitment, just words that evaporate the moment they're spoken. Democrats demand written guarantees, actual votes scheduled, binding commitments that can't be weaseled out of later. Mike "Tiny" Johnson refuses to even acknowledge the House's role in negotiations, pretending his chamber doesn't need to participate in keeping government operational. The standoff calcifies while real people face real consequences: evictions, hunger, desperation mounting with each passing day. The standoff. According to Reuters reporting on federal workforce impacts, over 800,000 federal workers faced furlough or unpaid work during extended shutdowns, with economic ripple effects estimated at $11 billion in lost productivity and delayed contracts. This isn't political theater, it's economic violence enacted by dipshit ideologues who've confused governance with performance art. But wait, there's more fuckery. Trumpington de Shitty Gobhole summoned Republican senators to the White House, demanding they detonate the filibuster, Washington's nuclear option. GOP support builds momentum for eliminating the 60-vote threshold, a scorched earth tactic that would obliterate decades of procedural guardrails. Liberty for wolves is death to the lambs. Isaiah Berlin. And that's exactly what we're watching. Wolves demanding unlimited liberty to devour democratic norms, to consolidate power, to eliminate any checks on their authority. These shitweasels want to fundamentally reshape the Senate's constitutional machinery because voters just told them to get fucked, and their response is to ensure voters can never effectively reject them again. The weight of what we've chosen. We have a government that deliberately shuts down for 37 days, threatens aviation safety, refuses to pay workers, announces pharmaceutical deals as distraction, loses elections because voters are economically desperate, and responds by trying to eliminate the filibuster to ram through more of the same horseshit. Not political dysfunction. Not partisan gridlock. Deliberate sabotage of democratic institutions by fascist-adjacent dumbfucks who've confused cruelty with strength. These same asswipes who claim to fear government overreach are overreaching into reproductive rights, turning women's bodies into state property and medical decisions into criminal investigations, are overreaching into voting rights, gerrymandering districts into abstract art and making it harder to vote than to buy a fucking assault rifle, are overreaching into every goddamn aspect of American life while simultaneously refusing to fund basic functions: schools, roads, air traffic control, food safety inspections, are threatening to eliminate the filibuster after years of using that same tool to obstruct progress. The evidence. According to the Congressional Research Service analysis of shutdown impacts, aviation safety margins decreased significantly during extended funding lapses, with the FAA reporting increased close-call incidents correlating to controller fatigue and understaffing. We've chosen leaders who treat governance like a hostage situation, who respond to electoral rejection by rigging the rules, who announce pharmaceutical victories while starving government workers, who threaten aviation safety rather than compromise. The echo will carry that airport terminal smell, stale coffee, desperation, unwashed floors, will linger long after this shutdown ends. Tomorrow, air traffic controllers will still report to jobs that don't pay them. Federal workers will still face eviction notices. The FAA will still prepare contingency plans for reducing flight capacity. Mike Donniesucker will still refuse to negotiate. And Donnie Dingleberry will still tweet or Truth Social or whatever the fuck, pretending this disaster isn't his deliberate creation. But Tuesday's elections showed something shifting. Voters in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia didn't just reject Republicans, they actively punished them for economic cruelty and governmental sabotage. The body blow, Cruz recognized as a disaster, might be the beginning of Americans remembering that government shutdowns aren't natural disasters. They're choices made by specific dickwads with names and addresses and electoral vulnerabilities. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. Immanuel Kant. Maybe, just fucking maybe, that soft voice of reason is finally getting through. Maybe voters are connecting the dots between Republican governance and their own economic suffering. Maybe they're recognizing that institutions don't fail spontaneously. They're failed by people who benefit from their collapse. The question isn't whether this shutdown will end. It will eventually, probably with some bullshit compromise that solves nothing. The question is whether Americans will remember that governmental competence isn't some luxury for good times. It's the difference between planes flying safely and crashes, between workers getting paid and families going hungry, between democracy functioning and fascism filling the vacuum left by institutional collapse. Because right now, 37 days in, the stench of failure isn't metaphorical. It's real. It's in those airport terminals. It's in the sweat of air traffic controllers working impossible hours without pay. It's in the fear of federal workers opening eviction notices. And it's in the cynical calculation of an administration that thinks Americans are too stupid or too distracted to connect these dots. We're not. Tuesday proved that. The question is whether we've finally had enough of this shit.